there, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be a video all about Darius. In my last video, I was talking about hidden treasures, and I gave the example of Darius being one of those. So basically in this video, I'm going to be now explaining to you why. We're going to cover what Darius used to be, we're going to be talking about what he is now, and why I think he has a lot of game. So if you're a Signor player, this is the video for you, or if you're not used to Darius, you're like, whoa, why should I be worried about Darius? Again, you might want to give this a listen. So let's start this off by talking about the past. Darius used to be a thing in Mark II. Basically, you take Darius to storm walls, put an armor buff on both, push them forward, take some beatings, heal them all back up with the feet, and then just keep on beating things down. And it was just a nice blunt instrument. It's really just one of those things where you're walking in with a sledgehammer if the sledgehammer also healed itself. So he was really good then, but why things kind of changed and why he fell out of favor was that going into Mark III, the whole dynamic of heavies changed. Whereas before, you would take just a couple of heavies, one or two, and a storm wall could be very dominant in that position, especially also having its cover fire to deal with other infantry. Now it all changed. Your storm wall got more expensive in comparison. The covering fire got weaker. You are now seeing more heavies that are more point efficient, and it's better to take more because of the power up mechanic, and as well, since there's more heavies out there, armor high single model storm wall or two storm walls just kind of gets overwhelmed, where before you could kind of absorb the damage from one heavy and then take it out and fully heal, and it's just like a free heavy you ate. But now they can come into you with like 3 heavies, take out your storm wall, and there's nothing to feed on. So I think that's why people looked at that, put Darius on the shelf, and really weren't thinking about taking him out until maybe the storm walls came down in points or something like that. Now, like I said, as everyone should, I went through my old casters, and one of the ones that really shone out to me is like, wow, actually I think Darius has some game. So let's now review what Darius is now in Mark III, and then we can get into what those kind of tricks and ideas are. So to start off with, he's focus 6, so average, speed 5, a little bit slow because he's in his big armor suit. You know, when I first got into him, that's why I actually liked it. It's because my brother played Karchev, and the only model I had close to that was Darius. It's like the funny red-headed stepson, but it's close enough. It is on a medium base for those who don't know. Strength 8 doesn't really matter too much. Mat 6, so not the best, kind of average. Rat 5, a little bit on the low side. But defense 13, armor 18. So normally those two numbers add up to 30. In this case here, you get a little bit of a bump, so that's pretty nice. The other thing is too, is that going and biasing really high on one side is typically usually a pretty good thing to do. You know, you can grab a lot of defense from things like going into cover and stuff like that, and if you throw Arcane Shield on this guy, he becomes armor 21, and that's kind of a big deal. So not a nothing type thing there in his stats. Now the weapons he has is, first he has a steam cannon. It's a range 12, rate of fire 1, AoE 4, POW 14 gun. So even though he doesn't have a high rat, if you're trying to kill some low armor infantry, pew, shoot off that AoE, let it scatter where it wants. It'll go down to POW 7s. But again, if it's low armor, you're still killing a lot of models just by letting it scatter. If you're trying to shoot a heavy, usually defense is lower, so maybe the Rat 5's not that big of a deal. And then it's a POW 14. So again, it's not a nothing gun. It's a, you know, can definitely be adding in some work. Now he has 2 melee weapons, one being kind of silly and the other one being actually useful. The silly one is a 1/2-inch wrench, and it's P plus S 11, sure, why not? The other one is he has a Quake Hammer, that's a 1-inch range, and P plus S 15, that not only has critical knockdown, but also has a star tremor attack. And this is pretty huge, because before resolving damage from this attack, center a 4-inch AoE directly on the model hit, and then all models under the AoE become knocked down, not including this model here, so not Darius. And that's huge. I mean, not only is it giving a model that doesn't have access to headbutt or slamming a way to knock things down, you'll notice there it didn't say anything like enemy model. So if you have like a defense 1000 caster that you need knocked down, run up one of your low defense models beside it, crank it with the Star Tremor, boom, they're all knocked down. So again, this is not a nothing attack. Like, not only is it POW 15, which is okay, but I mean, that Star Tremor can sometimes be huge. All right, he also has 22 boxes, so again, big beefy boy. And otherwise for rules, he can activate half-jacks. Now, not only are you getting Darius, but you're getting 3 solos, small base solos as well. These little tiny half-jacks, little balls with arms and legs. And these things here, first of all, you start with a 3, but at the start of your control phase, at the end of your control phase rather, if you have less than 3, you get 1 more placed completely within 1 inch of Darius. So in a game that is all about scoring flags and contesting, free solos are a pretty good thing. Now, before we get too much further, let's talk about what those half-jacks are. Most of their stats don't matter other than that it's speed 6, defense 13, R14, and it's a construct. The big things about it is that it has prime mine. So it's a star action, so you can walk up, turn this thing into a mine. So you take the model off, put a mine marker there instead, and then later on in your maintenance phase, you can detonate any number of your mines, and you put down an AoE 4 on it, and everything underneath it takes an unboostable POW 14 blast damage roll. And that can do a lot of work. We talked about how scattering POW 14 that goes down to POW 7 blast can kill some infantry. This will kill infantry even if it's shield walled, and it will also damage jacks as well. So this is something that can definitely be doing a lot of work if you have your placement done correctly. Now it can also repair, which is pretty nice. Again, a star action. It only does it to a target faction construct model, but it removes 1 damage point. So why not? You got this little solo that can run around, either turn to a mine or fix things. Sure, they're free. Why not? Now let's jump back to Darius and the spells. So the first one is Arcane Bolt. Seems boring, but can be very, very nice. Cost 2, range 10, POW 12, offensive spell, and then a Warjack damaged by this attack becomes stationary. Again, usually it's like, you're not going to want to do this, but situationally brilliant. So if you have a Jack that for some reason has really high defense, or if it has movement shenanigans like admonition, you just make that thing stationary, and then all that's gone. So again, normally not the biggest deal. He's not going to be assassinating with these or anything like that, although maybe if you need that last couple of points or something, but that stationary part can be a lot bigger of a deal. Now he also has Fortify. This is a cost 2, range 6 upkeep. Target Warjack and Sporecaster's battle group gains +2 armor, which is nice already, but then as well, the affected model and any friendly models in base to base with it cannot become knocked down, pushed, or be moved by a slam. So that can be massive. When there's a lot of effects that can be, moving things around, being able to like, nope, this model can't do that to it, plus anyone in base to base. For example, if you're up against Ron and a Helios, they want to move you around the board, just touch your things to this model and you're completely fine. So otherwise, just watch out for things that might dispel that spell because all that protection's gone. But again, not only is it great as an armor buff, but it's also great just for all those other things too. Now it also has Full Throttle. Now Full Throttle is a cost 3 self spell that has an effect of control and lasts the turn. And what it does is Warjacks and Spellcasters battle group beginning their activation in its control range can run, charge, and make slam or trample power attacks without spending focus. And while in this spellcaster's control range, models in its battle group gain boosted melee attack rolls. And it'll last, as I said, for 1 turn. Again, in the old edition, you didn't do this that much because it cost 3. So unless you're going to be boosting more than 3 times or charging and boosting, whatever. The thing is, like a lot of times, unless you're doing a lot of it, it just really wasn't worth it to cast. Well, now that you're might be doing more heavies, this can get a lot more value from it. So again, we'll talk about this in a second, but this spell that used to be not that great before, a lot better now. Now, as well with this, another spell that it has, and honestly, this is a spell that brought me back to this caster, because you got some convergence caster right there right now, with some crazy battlesuit arms that can go and jackhammer things, and is doing really well. Well, Darius also has jackhammer. So this is a cost 1, range 6, target model in the spellcaster's battle group immediately makes 1 melee attack. And that can do so many different things. You know, if you have a model that has some things in the way, jackhammer, now it's clear, it can charge off and do what it really wants to do without having to trample. If there's something out of your charge range, you can just run there instead and then jackhammer. Or it also means that you don't even need to even go out there and allocate focus, because why take the risk of maybe allocating too much? Just make your jacks do what they want, and then after, if they didn't do enough, jackhammer, great, now we're exactly where we want to be. So an amazing spell. Now, another new spell that I got in Mark 3 is Refuge. It's a cost 2, range 6 upkeep. At the end of an activation in which target friendly faction model hits an enemy model with an attack, the affected model can make a full advance and it cannot be targeted by free strikes during this movement. That's pretty nifty, and again, kind of really shows that Privateer Press is wanting you to take Darius in a different direction, because if you put Refuge onto a storm wall that can't move out of its regular movement, it'd be like, okay, I hit you, Refuge triggers, and I'm still here. So clearly they're wanting you to go with something else. Before I get to the feat, getting to its other abilities, it has a few that are really important, and the first one is Crane. Now, Crane used to be before, and the big thing is that it got better and worse. Now, the way that it got worse is, well, actually, I should actually read the rule. Right now it says, once per turn at any time during its activation, this model can choose one other friendly large-based or smaller model within 2 inches of it. You can place that model anywhere complete within 2 inches of its current location, and if it's knocked down, it immediately stands up unless it was knocked down this turn. So last edition, it could be any size model, so even battle engines, you're like, hurrah! And as well, it had to be within 1 inch, not completely be within 2. So again, with the battle engine, you put down your little like 1 inch marker, put the model in front of that, and you're getting like 6 inches. So that was huge. The thing is though, and now, you might notice that wasn't a star action. You just do it. Anytime during your activation, you just do it. It's just for free. And so sure, you're not really catapulting things forward, but now it's basically giving Darius a free slipstream that also stands things up. And by doing that now, you can either like, okay, I'm going to be doing something over there, but before I do that, I'm going to crane you closer, giving 2 inches of extra threat. Now I'm going to charge over here, do something else, or maybe I come over here, I got to go and disengage this because they've engaged my defender that wants to get a shot or something like that. You know, there's a lot of things you can be doing with place effects that now that it's free and not a star action, happens a lot more, and it's much more of a bigger deal. This model, Darius, can also repair D3+3, so hey, you know, it's always good to have mechanics. That's a very good one to have, so while you're doing other things and casting spells, why not repair your jacks as well? Seems to make sense to me. And it's also repairable, so it is not, I believe, a construct, no. So you can't fix it with the half jacks, but what it does mean is that if you have other mechanics and stuff like that, they can go around, and if they have no jacks to fix, well, let's fix Darius. So again, kind of adding to its survivability. Finally, let's get to its feat. So the feat did not change, I don't think, from Mark 2, but what it says is Darius and the half-jacks in his battle group currently in his control range can completely repair one friendly faction warjack with which he or it is base to base. So I mean, clearly none of those little half-jacks are female, which is kind of too bad. Remove all damage from those warjacks. So I mean, that's why, of course, it was so big in Mark 2. You would go and just touch them with some half-jacks, pop your feet, boom, they're completely healed. So same type of thing in now. So, alright, that's what Darius is now. Does the Stormwall thing work? No. So we can go and scrap that. But as we kind of already said with some of these spells, like Refuge, it kind of seems like you don't want to be doing Stormwalls anyway. And like I said, the big thing that pulled me to it was Jackhammer. And whereas I was doing jackhammer shenanigans in Mercenaries with McBain and having some very good success, well, Cygnar has even better jacks. So instead of doing this on like a Mat 6 Nomad, why not I do this on a Stormclad that's Mat 7 and also having P+S 19 and also has Electroleap. So as things are a lot more effective, you have a lot stronger, more elite jacks you can actually use jackhammer with in Cygnar. So that's a really big deal, and especially now when you want to get out there and be doing some extra damage. And in a lot of the themes that they like to run right now, you can't normally take Ragman. You can take Ragman, say, in your Gravedigger list, but you usually don't then have all the heavies. If you're going with lots of heavies and stuff like that, it's usually in heavy metal, and that's where you don't really have the damage buff. Well, really, Jackhammer is a damage buff because of how you can just cast until it's dead. I mean, imagine if what Jackhammer said is that you can allocate up to 8 focus on a Jack, because that's really what it is. Okay, so far I'll try and make this video. I've been called twice, my cards got full, and now my batteries died. I don't know what it is. I think it's Haley 3 and Siege 2 trying to shut this down. Like, no, we have this. Nobody can know about Darius, but we're going to make this happen. You're going to learn about Darius. So we're on to the tricks and tips about how to use this stuff, and we're talking about Jackhammer. So like I was saying there, that is huge. If he had nothing else in his spells other than just Jackhammer, that would still be enough to be interesting, because the damage output you can do is so big. Even that's the thing for like a trade up. When you're trying to trade up with other heavies, okay, my lines are facing up, your line is over there, one of us is wondering who's going to blink first, and then all of a sudden I run one of my jacks over there, Jackhammer, 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 take out 2 of your heavies, you might take out mine, but I just traded up like that. Now, you do have some limitations there because Jackhammer is range 6, so maybe you need to go and try and find something like having an arc node or something like that. So you do have to kind of make sure that you are going to be in range, or if you're behind a building, something like that. The main thing is that this gives you a lot more offensive capabilities than you'd have before. If they have 3 heavies and you have 1, you might be okay because you have Jackhammer. Run in there, Jackhammer, take out 2, use your crane then to pull it away, and then you're able to like throw things up there and just block it. Plus, we also talked about how it also has Refuge. Now, Refuge doesn't directly work so much with Jackhammer, because if you were to charge in there, make your attacks, and then Refuge away, what am I jackhammering? Am I making you jackhammer to punch Darius? But what that does mean, though, is that Refuge is still a great spell for that hit and run. You can go in there, do a bunch of damage, and then again, save your heavies, not by popping a feat and hoping you can pop your feat, but rather charging in there, killing something, and then backing away. And again, you can be using the crane with that. So either you're threatening another 2 inches because of the crane, or you could be using the crane so that after it refuges, you're like, oh, buddy, come even further back, and just really try and stay away. The other synergy that you have there is note that the heavy can always charge this way first, kill this target, Refuge over here, and then you're going to jackhammer it from that point to actually make it more dangerous. In fact, that Refuge can really push the distance you can actually threaten with Jackhammer. Normally, what you'd be having is if your Stormclad was to run 10 inches up, has 2-inch range, that means you're really threatening about 12 inches with Jackhammer. With Refuge, well, what that means is that you are charging now 5 + 3, 8, 10 inches. So actually, let's not add that 2 inches yet. You're charging up 8 inches first, doing whatever, refuging another 5, so now you're 13, and now you have 2-inch reach, so you're actually threatening 15 inches away. I guess I could have just taken my last threat and added 5, but who doesn't want to do math on the internet? So anyway, that's massive. You do have to keep again in mind the fact that you don't want to outpace your ability to actually apply the refuge, because of course if you get too far, then you can't even cast it. So you need an arc node or you need some way to get Darius up there to actually cast it. But hey, we're in a faction that has Lancers if needed. You know, maybe there's some jank play once the stuff comes down that maybe Hurricane could do it, but it's probably going to be a Lancer somewhere. Or if nothing else, Darius can usually play pretty far forward because his armor is so high. So the idea that you would need to get up there to be within 6 inches of its final location, especially if it's for a caster kill so you don't really care, sure, why not? And as well, when you're dealing with something like refuge and running, the non-lateral threat is also a very big deal. You know, if you have a caster that's hiding behind a building, and so what you do with your Stormclad is charge here and then refuge the rest of the way behind the building, gotcha! Now I just need to put my Lancer there, jackhammer, 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 and you're dead. Now, jackhammer is an old nice thing to do, but also remember that you need to hit, and that can sometimes be a problem. We talked about how the mat is higher when you're talking about Signar, but if you have any sort of knockdown, that can be great. If the enemy is in your face, well, what that means is that you can go and maybe do the Star Attack Tremor first, and then jackhammer, jackhammer, jackhammer on something stronger. But the other thing you can do is, of course, try and add some other knockdowns into your list. There's a few different options there. Or, if you want to, you can also do it through casting the full throttle. Now, that is costing 3, so that means you're going to have 3 less attacks. But hey, if that now means that all those jackhammers after that, and there could be 4 more after that if you take one with the Squire, those are all boosted to hits. So if all you need to do is make sure you hit 4 times, it might be really worth casting that spell. Plus as well, it's not just those boosted attacks that's giving you Bennett from, all the charges are now free as well. And all the boosted attacks and anything else you have is free as well. So let's actually then take that and then talk about full throttle. We talked about how full throttle wasn't that interesting in the last edition, but now it really is. If you're running a list that has, let's say, a bunch of heavies, well, even if we say a moderate amount of heavies and say like 4, by casting 3, you are now getting a free charge with each one and a free boosted to hit on its first attack, and that's only assuming it has 1 initial attack. If it has multiple initial attacks, that's extra boost. So already, just with that single go get 'em boys, you're getting your money's worth for full throttle. So if you have anything else that's built around lots of lights or anything where you're running like, you know, 6, 7, 8 jacks, full throttle can be absolute money for you. And again, you can't ignore and forget the fact that that also really enables the jackhammer. You know, if you have your defense 17 caster and you're like, huh, whatever, you need 10s to hit me, well, boosted 10s are more of a thing, and that can really happen. Plus, also remember too that you can sometimes kill things with Electro Leaps. So maybe I'm going to run up my Stormclad here and jackhammer it and just make it so like I'm hitting that easy, Electro Leaps automatically hit that, and die, they all go away. That's also kind of the dream. If you have like a heavy you're trying to take out, you run up there with your Stormclad, jackhammer it, and then meanwhile the Electro Leaps are going and killing all the other things around it, all the infantry. That'd be pretty nice. Now while we're talking about lightning stuff, let's also talk about Thunderhead. Thunderhead is very, very interesting with Darius. So normally what Thunderhead does is walks up, pulses, and then dies. So it goes up there, kills a lot of infantry, and then that's usually all it does. What you can do with Darius with it is a couple of things. One, you can crane it, so you can be making it threaten further. You can crane it back, helping to protect it after it goes up and does its thing. But again, we also have refuge. And because your pulse automatically hits, you know you are going to get to refuge away. Meaning that you can go and crane up Thunderhead, it'll walk up, pulse out the 6 inches, and then refuge back. Or again, you could go up, pulse, refuge back, and then crane back even further. And the only part that you might want to then go around that then is because there's a little bit of counter synergy here in that Cane Zero is a thing, and that Fire for Effect on Thunderhead is equally amazing. Unfortunately, that means we have 2 upkeeps. You can't be putting on Refuge and Fire for Effect. So then that means that what you're really doing is really making sure to either be using Cane Zero to go up there and zapping and pulling it back, or it's more of a thing of I'm going to crane you forward to make sure this happens, or after you go up and zap, because I want Cane 1 to be camping and not die, I'm going to go and pull you backwards. Another thing you can do as something that's going to be going out there and kind of holding the enemy back, other than just like running away with Refuge and Crane, is also those half-jacks. You have to keep in mind those half-jacks, because they're not just little buddies that go around and heal one and there's something to extend out the feat to up to 3 other targets, and they're not just scoring models, they're not just contesting models, they're models you can run in the way, and they're models you can go and turn into mines. And so when you have your front lines, and if you have a build that can't block things with like a bunch of infantry, or if you're trying to deal with a lot of infantry, turning your stuff into mines can be a very great deterrent, because they might have the models they need that could charge up and threaten Thunderhead. Maybe not enough to kill it, but by doing that, boom, you blow up all those models, and then by doing that, okay, now my Thunderhead's all free. And now let's use that to talk about how you can disengage Thunderhead. Not only can you disengage Thunderhead by blowing up a mine and making sure that any infantry person that ran up there just to be like, haha, you're engaged, you can't pulse. Well, not only can you just blow them up, but as well, you can just crane Thunderhead out. That is so big for Thunderhead. Sometimes in the past what they do is run up a heavy and be like, there you go, I already did some damage to your Thunderhead. If you want to take a free strike and die, go ahead, but pretty much your Thunderhead's a write-off. Well, what you just do is walk up there, crane your Thunderhead out of combat, and now it's free to pulse and zap after and all those great things. So there is a lot of synergy there with the Stormclad and also with the Thunderhead. And then when I started building that, and I actually had one that had 2 Stormclads onto Darius, and then I had Cane Zero with a Thunderhead, I was like, I'm starting to have a lot of lightning here. And I didn't want to get so much into the battle engines. I wanted to go more at the full throttle route, and then what I did is just added a lot more of the Fireflies. And so what that is doing is now making sure that whenever those electroleaps or pulses are going around, that now they're higher POW, and as well they're just something in the way, and it's just more models there to be blocking and making sure my heavies can do their work. When I go in there with my Stormclad and it's jackhammer, 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 and maybe, you know, attack, attack, run away with Refuge, if it's not safe just by killing things around it and or getting distance back after, now I can just throw a couple of Fireflies in front and just body block with them, and they can really hold back a lot. And one of the things that I learned from doing my Buccaneers is that people really underestimate the amount of damage it is to take out a light. A lot of times people just think like, oh, I'll shoot it with these couple of guns or charge it with these couple of guys. No, no, no. They take a lot more to take out. And if they do just get kind of crippled, you always have your feat waiting. So let's use that to segue to talking about the feat. The feat is, even though pretty much exactly the same as before, is kind of worse than before. Like I said, before you'd have this super storm wall, super high armor. You could go up there, tank a lot of damage, and then just fully repair it. And it's like, well, you're good to go. And now that you're not running storm walls, it's like, oh, it doesn't seem to be as worthwhile, but it still is a very big deal. I mean, not only does this like a get out of jail free card if you ever have a system down, right? I mean, not only do you have outs because Darius can fix, the half-jacks can fix, plus if you take any mechanics in the list as well, well now, if you ever need it, you can be like, geez, I got a couple of systems down, I can only heal like a couple of boxes, I don't think it's going to be enough. Well, I can just run up a half-jack now and just completely heal it. And you can go with the argument that that's not good because the opponent now needs to go in there and just take out your jack, and then you basically don't have a feat, but that's also not so bad in itself. Because what you'll see is that if people need to have Darius's feat in your mind, if you're holding on to it more as the threat, what that means for them is that they have to dedicate more to make sure your jack dies. Because if they just throw a simple heavy into your heavy and they do 2/3 the box of the damage, they're basically doing no damage because they're going to feat and it's all just going to go away. So that means they need to allocate more focus, allocate a second jack, and the more that they have to allocate to take you out, the more you're up on that resource trade. So again, if they're sending up 2 jacks to come and take out your 1 just to make sure it's not a waste because of your feat, well, that's great. Then your 1 other heavy can walk up there, jackhammer, jackhammer, jackhammer. Great, you're gone. And now, hopefully, you're so far back that you're not trading away that heavy either. So it's just all about this resource trade, and you really have to see it not as, oh, this is a waste because they can just do this. Think of it more of, they have to do this to really try and counter the things you can do. And that really does have a big benefit. So that's really it of what Darius is all about. He has a lot more attack potential than he had before because of Jackhammer. He has a lot more hit and run than he did before because of Refuge. And then also because of Full Throttle, he runs larger battle groups very, very efficiently. I mean, really, if you think of your 1 focus light that you used to run before it could charge in and that's it, I sure hope I hit. But now all of your lights are charging for free, boosting that first one for free to hit. Because it's a charge, you're getting a boost on your first damage, and now you get to actually spend a focus to buy an attack after that is now also boosted because you still have Full Throttle going on. So just from that 1 light, we're already getting the value. And if you're running multiple lights, if you have a heavy with multiple initials, you are very, very quickly going to be getting that value out of Full Throttle. And at any time, not only are you getting that good grindy value there with your half jacks exploding, maybe Thunderhead pulsing, whatever you're doing there, your opponent also has to be aware that they're in super danger of assassination as long as you ever have a jack that can run up and be jackhammered. And that, again, that a threat that's not lateral, so you can charge over here or run around here or charge here and then refuge over there and then jackhammers following, that is a really big deal. And again, if they counter that by having to keep their caster further back and hiding, that's not your stuff being made ineffective and useless. That's making their force being less effective. So that's what it's really all about. So that's Darius. I really think that if you're a Signar player out there, you should really give Darius some try and just take your old list with the Storm Walls, get rid of those. That's not what Darius is all about now. And then if you're not a Signar player, well, I guess I was just a little bit traitorous and I just told you all the secrets. And now next time if you see Darius across the table, know that it's a whole different kettle of fish. It's not going to be, I'm going to stand up and take your punch. Now I'm hitting and running, I'm jackhammering, I'm taking big battle groups that are very highly effective with all the re-rolls and free charges and stuff, and it's going to be a really big deal. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye.